Long ago, in a magnificent kingdom bordered by deep green forests, lived a princess named Snow White, whose extraordinary beauty was renowned throughout the land. Possessing skin as purely white as fresh snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black and glossy as polished ebony wood. Tragically, Snow White's gentle, kind mother passed away, and soon after, the king married a new woman who became queen. A woman whose dazzling appearance hid a dark and malicious vanity within her heart. The new queen was terrifyingly beautiful, dominating the court with her cold, commanding presence driven by an overwhelming, insatiable desire to be acknowledged as the most stunning woman in the entire realm. She guarded her most prized possession, a mesmerizing magic mirror, and every morning she would stand before it, demanding to know the name of the fairest woman with the solemn question, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who in this land is fairest of all?" For many years, the mirror faithfully confirmed the queen's dominance, its reflection assuring her, in a deep, mysterious voice, that, "My queen, you are the fairest of all across the mountains and valleys of the kingdom." But as the seasons changed and the princess blossomed, Snow White's natural grace and pure-hearted charm surpassed the queen's cold beauty, becoming a beacon of light that grew brighter each day. One crisp morning, unaware of the profound change that had occurred, the queen stood before her enchanted looking-glass, confidently posing the question that had always flattered her pride. The mirror's answer shattered her delusion, delivering a stark truth that echoed ominously, "My queen, you are beautiful indeed, but here in this castle, Snow White is 1,000 times more fair." Hearing this, the queen felt an agonizing, sharp spike of unbearable jealousy pierce her heart, causing her face to turn pale with fury, as her vanity instantly transformed into a burning, murderous obsession. Unable to tolerate the existence of a rival, she summoned her most trusted huntsman and, with a chilling command, ordered him to take the princess deep into the remotest part of the forest and return only after he had killed her and brought back her heart as proof. Trembling with fear and reluctance, the huntsman led the unsuspecting princess away from the safety of the castle, deeper and deeper into the quiet, isolated wilderness where few men dared to tread. When the moment of truth arrived, Snow White sank to her knees, pleading with tear-filled eyes for him to spare her life, promising tearfully that she would vanish into the world and never step foot back in the kingdom. Overcome by the innocence and despair in her young face, the huntsman realized he could not possibly harm such a gentle soul and decided, against the queen's cruel wishes, to let her go to deceive the maniacal queen. The huntsman swiftly hunted and killed a young wild boar, carefully taking its heart back to the palace and presenting it as the heart of the unfortunate princess fleeing through the tangled woods. Snow White was terrified by the rustling leaves, the looming shadows of the ancient trees, and the cries of the wild creatures, running until her delicate slippers were worn and her body was utterly exhausted. Just as darkness began to fall and her hope was dimming, she suddenly spotted a tiny, charming wooden cottage tucked away in a small clearing. With smoke curling peacefully from its chimney, she cautiously entered the small dwelling and found a strange sight. 7 tiny chairs, 7 tiny cups, and 7 tiny beds, all covered in dust and surprisingly untidy for such a small, neat house. Driven by her kind nature and hoping to earn a place to stay, Snow White immediately began cleaning, washing the dishes, sweeping the floors, and making the miniature beds until the house sparkled. Feeling faint from hunger and exhaustion, she took a small sip from 7 different cups and ate a tiny piece of bread from each plate before lying down on one of the little beds, where she quickly drifted into a deep sleep. As midnight approached, the actual owners of the cottage, 7 small men known as the dwarves, Grumpy, Doc, Happy, Sleepy, Bashful, Sneezy, and Dopey, returned home. Weary from a long day mining precious jewels, the 7 dwarves were utterly astonished to see their normally chaotic home clean and orderly, and even more shocked to find a beautiful, sleeping princess occupying their little beds. After hearing her harrowing story, they felt sympathy and agreed that she could remain in their home. on the strict condition that she would diligently manage all the housework. Cooking and cleaning for them, they urgently and repeatedly warned her, with stern faces, never, under any circumstances, to unlock or open the front door to any stranger who might approach the isolated cottage while they were gone back at the castle. The queen once again stood before her mirror, only to have her fury renewed by the undeniable reply that Snow White was alive and safe in the dwarf's cottage. Mad with uncontrollable hatred, the queen realized she could only rely on herself. She locked herself away and began brewing a complex, sinister plan. Using her darkest magic to create various disguises and poisons, her first attempt saw her transformed into a frail, traveling peddler woman, carrying a basket of brightly colored but magically poisoned corset laces, which she offered to the princess at the door with persuasive flattery. The disguised queen convinced Snow White to try on a beautiful lace, which she then cruelly yanked tight around the princess's chest, causing her to fall to the floor breathless and unconscious. Fortunately, the dwarves returned moments later, noticing the strange old woman fleeing. They immediately saw the dangerous lace, cut it away, and watched with relief as Snow White gasped and slowly came back to life undeterred. The queen created a poisoned comb for her second attempt, but Snow White remembered the dwarves' warning and kept the door bolted, frustrating the queen's second plot and forcing her to retreat in a rage. The dwarves, now gravely concerned for their friend's safety, strongly reinforced their warning, making Snow White promise that she would not be tempted by anyone, no matter how innocent or pitiful they seemed. Driven to the brink of madness, the queen concocted her most deadly and beautiful creation, a flawless, red-cheeked apple, poisoned only on one enticing half, hiding the most lethal venom. Disguising herself as an elderly farmer's wife, she approached the cottage and used a clever trick, taking a bite from the safe, white side of the apple before urging Snow White to taste the irresistible red half. Seeing the gentle old woman seemingly eat the fruit without harm, the naive Snow White finally let down her guard, yielding to the temptation of the beautiful red color and taking a decisive, fatal bite. The moment the poisonous juice touched her lips, Snow White fell silently to the floor, the wicked spell taking hold, leaving her looking perfectly preserved, as if merely asleep, yet utterly lifeless. The queen, feeling a triumphant, cold satisfaction course through her veins, hurried back to her castle, asking the mirror one final time and at last receiving the answer, "My queen, you are the fairest of all." Upon returning, the distraught seven dwarfs found the princess lying still, and despite all their frantic efforts and loving care, they could not break the powerful, malicious curse cast by the queen, unwilling to bury their beloved friend. Because her skin still held a breathtaking, rosy glow, they built a magnificent coffin made of crystal and gold, placing her inside so she might be admired forever. After many months, a traveling prince from a neighboring kingdom happened upon the clearing and, seeing the princess within the shimmering glass, was instantly captivated by her serene, sleeping beauty. The prince, overcome with love at first sight, pleaded with the mourning dwarves to allow him to take the crystal coffin with him. As they lifted it, a jolt dislodged the small, poisoned piece of apple from Snow White's throat. Instantly, the color returned to her cheeks, her eyes fluttered open, and the princess was awake. She and the ecstatic prince soon married in a grand ceremony, while the queen met a fitting punishment, ensuring peace and happiness reigned forevermore.